This road, this exact location, is where I attempted suicide by crashing our 12-seater van into another vehicle at 60 miles per hour.
Luke, he had a life in him. He would dance and he had a huge imagination, and he would just sit there and tell stories, and he loved life.
He was a great kid. He really enjoyed being with the family, and I think with the rest of his siblings.
I like living my life. And just going about my day, doing school, reading, and then when I did, hanging out with friends. Around the age of 12 at first I noticed that my perception of the world started to shift. So what I used to think what was right, all of a sudden seemed wrong, and what was wrong became right, and I was really confused, and I thought, okay, I'm getting a bit sad, I'm getting a bit moody, and I figured, okay, I'm becoming a teenager, no problem there. But the thing is that didn't go away, and it just got worse from there on. During those years, I didn't believe at all in God. I thought, no, it's not rational, logical, and why would an all-loving God make me feel this way, the only person in the world, right? And why would he make everybody else happy?
He really didn't have much of an opinion on anything, and he was very quiet and withdrawn. We didn't know that he was suffering, and that actually made it that's the hardest for us.
So it was around the age of 14, 15 when I began seriously considering suicide. At nights, I couldn't sleep, so I would stay up all night thinking of how I would kill myself the next day. That seemed like the only option. It really did. It was a Monday, I believe, December 3rd, 2012. It was my chore that day to clean out our big 12-seater van. So I took the keys, went outside, cleaned for about 10 minutes, and I decided this is it, I'm gonna do it. So I jumped into the driver's seat, put the keys in ignition, backed out of the driveway, and sped down the road.
I texted him and I said, "You're never gonna get your driver's license like this." He had his permit. "Come home, what's wrong?" And when I texted him, his phone was on his bed, and it gave a notification, I guess, and my other son got the phone, and he found the suicide note on the phone. And
After driving about half a mile, turned left through a stop sign, and that's when I saw a white SUV coming in the opposite direction. And I thought, this is it. This is my chance. I can finally end my pain. I can finally be free. I will finally be free of this misery. So I accelerated, wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and going about 60 miles per hour here. That's when I hit the white SUV.
so a friend of mine called me and said, "I just saw your van, are you okay?" And I was frantic, of course, and I was screaming in just the worst frantic way you could ever imagine, and asked her if Luke was still alive, because I thought, so for an hour I thought my son was dead. And now when I look at families who experience suicide and their children are dead permanently, my heart really goes out to them, because it's the worst thing in the world.
I didn't really think about what might happen. All I thought was, I'm in pain, I need to end this, because it was not going to end unless I do something about it.
He just wanted to kill himself. He didn't even realize there was someone else in the other car.
Both vehicles slipped in midair. We landed on the side of the road. I don't remember much from that time, but somehow I guess I climbed out of a broken window, and from what I remember, I just ran down the road. I was just running. And all I could think of was, why? Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to keep on living? And why do I have to be the only person in the world to feel like this? Out of that 60-mile-per-hour crash, wearing no seatbelt, I survived completely unharmed. All I had was a scratch on my arm. I don't even have a scar. Not until much later that I thought, wow, that was a miracle. I was transferred to a mental facility on a 72-hour hold after that. So I stayed there for 3 days. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder there. I was put on medication. My parents visited me every day. And at the end of those 3 days, I was told, you can get better. This is how you can get better. We're gonna help you through this.
When you're in a depressive state, it's hard to feel love. So that's the one thing that we wanted to make sure that he understood, that we love him no matter what. He couldn't do anything that would take away our love for him. So that was the main thing that we tried to get across to him.
And for him to know that he was sick. We sat down and we said, you're sick. And this is probably how you feel. And he was shocked because he felt so isolated and alone.
When I was in the mental hospital, my parents came and visited me. And they started talking to me about all the people that would have been impacted by my death. They started with family. Okay, now other relatives. Now friends. Now friends of friends. People who would have been impacted. And the list just exponentially grew. And as I started to see so many people who would have been impacted, it really changed my perspective. And I thought, wow, I really have left a mark on a lot of people, an indelible mark that just can't be erased. As time went on, I began growing my spiritual life a bit more. So I went to confession, and that was an amazing experience. I really felt more at peace and more driven and think, wow, I'm forgiven. I can move on from my mistakes. It was over time that I realized God has a plan for all of us. There's something in store for my future. Time just progressed, started praying more, started getting more involved with my faith, and just over time, just learning more and more and getting more and more involved. And I think that's just what we're all on. We're all on a faith journey that will never end. And I'm still continuing mine. I started sharing my story. And the people I shared my story with, some of them went, wait, what? Wow, I've been feeling that way too.
I'm sure that God didn't plan for him to get in this crash.
No.
But what came out of it was this great ministry that Luke has now, that he can relate to other teens that are going through this problem.
I didn't know that I was suffering from, other people are suffering like I was. So it was slowly with that time I realized, wow, my story is making an impact. And I've shared it with a couple dozen people. Imagine what could happen if I shared it with tens of thousands of people.
One of the most amazing forgivenesses that I received was from Lenny Ross, the driver of that white SUV that I completely totaled and sent him to the hospital with a broken sternum and multiple lacerations all over his body. About 8 months after the crash, we reached out to each other through the DA, and we met at a coffee shop. And I was so scared. I was nervous. I was like, what's this guy gonna do? I thought he'd be angry, yelling at me, because I'd be angry. But he came to me, I gave him a big hug, and I said, I'm so sorry. And he looked at me and he said, that's all I wanted to hear. And for the moment I realized, whoa, he just forgave me.
I'm here, alive. I want to make sure other people, right, stay alive as well. As I have this experience, I survived. I know what it's like on the other side of this. You don't have to go down the same path I did. You can come to this other side without going through all of this pain that I did. When I talk to people, what I saw over and over and over again, these are amazing people. and they're convinced that they're worthless. And I saw that repeated so many times, and I saw that in myself. And I have never met someone who was worthless, who didn't have any skills or talents, which I don't believe there is a person on this world without skills and talents and passions, who is beautiful and indelible and will be loved and remembered by people when they're gone. I'm going to continue to believe that every life matters, every life is indelible, and every life can't be erased by death. I've never seen it. I don't believe there's anybody out there who is.
It's like someone else was here before, and now I'm coming looking at where he was, at what point in his life. Now, returning with hope, a future, motivation. It's strange to see the transformation that can occur.